At 3 a.m., her phone lit up. She didn't wake up, but I did. It buzzed once, just once. Then the screen went dark. The contact name read, Nikki, work. Work? At that hour? I didn't wake her. I just lay there, watching her sleep with the kind of peace I hadn't felt in weeks. We're expecting a baby. I should trust her. But that night, for the first time, a thought crept in. What if I shouldn't? This isn't just another story. It's mine. And if you're hearing this, maybe you felt it too, that slow, quiet shift when everything in your life seems to be falling into place, but something deep inside whispers that it's not. It's silent, invisible, but it's there. My name's Alex Carter. I'm an architect. My life's a blur of blueprints, late-night flights, and coffee gone cold. I love what I do. Sometimes too much. The last few years have been great professionally, promotions, major projects, constant travel. And at home, well, things seemed good too. Emily and I have been together for 5 years. A few months ago, the pregnancy news hit us out of nowhere, and for the first time in a long time, I stopped, breathed differently, felt something shift. I told her I wanted to be there, that I was done with the travel, that this was the moment to stay, and I meant it. I cut back on flights, restructured my work. I stayed, but now that I'm here, something doesn't feel right. Emily works in digital marketing, always on the go, always social, always brilliant. Her phone's practically an extension of her hand, always on her, always locked, always smiling at the screen. I never considered myself the jealous type, but sometimes, things change. After that night, the one with the message from Nikki, I started noticing more. Not paranoia, just awareness. She didn't notice the difference. Or maybe she did and chose not to mention it. She still went out with her friends, still came home late, still wore that unfamiliar perfume, still placed her phone face down on the counter every time she set it down. And I kept hoping there was a simple explanation. One night we were watching a show on the couch. She laughed, but not at the screen. Her eyes were glued to her phone, typing, smiling. I watched her more than the show. When she felt my stare, she locked her phone with a sharp flick and set it down beside her. Who was that? I asked, plain and direct. She barely missed a beat. No one. Just Nikki. A girl from work. The same Nikki who texts you at 3 a.m.? A pause. Long. Still. Sometimes we work in different time zones, Alex. You know how that goes. I said nothing, but the way her smile disappeared told me more than any answer could. That night, we didn't sleep curled up together. Not even close. We each faced opposite walls, the space between us cold and wide, and I stared at the ceiling, whispering the same mantras over and over. Don't accuse without proof. It's probably nothing. You're about to be a dad. Just calm down. But some doubts, once they take root, don't stop growing. The next morning, I was making coffee when I noticed her laptop open on the dining table. A tab was pulled up, some kind of chat window. I didn't click, didn't scroll. I just saw the name of the contact. It wasn't Nikki this time. It was something else. A short name. A nickname. When she walked into the kitchen and saw me looking, she closed the laptop without a word, then smiled. You want more coffee? She asked, all sunshine. I nodded, but inside, something cracked again. I didn't know if it was her pulling away, or me forgetting how to reach her. I tried convincing myself it was nothing, that I was imagining things, that the late-night messages, the secret smiles, the laptop slams, all of it could be explained. But sometimes, even the kindest logic can't drown out the voice inside your gut. One ordinary Tuesday morning, as we sat having breakfast, the words just slipped out, softly, almost like I was asking myself, "Are you okay?" She set her spoon down, looked at me like she didn't understand the question. Why? I don't know. I just feel like there's something between us lately, like you're not really here. She didn't respond right away. She glanced down, smiled tightly. Must be the pregnancy. Hormones. I've been extra emotional. I didn't push, but I didn't believe her either. That night, we had dinner in silence. The TV was on. The room was dim. The sound of cars outside passed like waves. She scrolled her phone with one hand and picked at her food with the other. I sat across from her, wondering if I'd ever really know what went through her mind. Then came something I didn't see coming. 2 days later, I ran into Rachel Monroe at Whole Foods. She's a friend of Emily's, someone I barely knew. We exchanged polite smiles, brief hellos. Then, out of nowhere, she said, "Hey, I saw Emily the other night on Lindsay's rooftop. She looked amazing." Caught me off guard. The other night? Yeah, Friday, I think. Around 10 or 11. I didn't answer. Friday night, Emily told me she had a headache, said she was going to bed early. I kept my tone even. Maybe it was another night. Rachel smiled and moved on, not seeing the earthquake behind my eyes. That night, I watched Emily like never before. Her expressions, the way she avoided eye contact, how she said, "good night," without touching me, how she slept soundly while I was unraveling inside. The next day, I saw her step out onto the balcony to take a call. I quietly approached the window. Didn't catch much. Just a single sentence. "I can't talk now. He's here." I didn't know if I was hearing a partner or a witness, but that one line hit me like a hammer. Later that evening, I asked her again, more directly this time. "Who's Nikki?" She looked caught off guard, surprised at first, then annoyed. "I told you. She's a coworker. Why does she message you at 3 a.m.? Different time zones." "I've already explained this." "And the rooftop?" "With Lindsay." Pause. "Are you following me now?" "No. Rachel told me. Just caught me off guard. I thought you were home that night. You said you were sick." She sighed. Angry. Got up from the table. "Alex, you're being paranoid. You're imagining things." "I'm not paranoid, Emily. I'm just tired of feeling like you're hiding something." She didn't reply. Just walked to the bedroom and shut the door. That night, I didn't sleep beside her. Not out of spite. It just didn't feel possible anymore. That week, I became someone I didn't recognize. The kind of man who watches closely, quietly, who listens between words and replays conversations in his head like movie scenes, trying to catch what he missed. Because when something feels off, you start seeing it everywhere. Every sentence, every gesture, every pause. It all starts to feel like evidence, even if you don't know what it proves. Thursday night, she fell asleep early. I stayed up reading on the couch, pretending to focus. But my mind wasn't on the book. As I passed by the dining table, I saw her laptop open again. The screen was on. Not locked. I didn't mean to snoop. It wasn't premeditated. But my eyes drifted to the corner of the screen. A tiny bubble. A notification. Just one sentence. I couldn't stop thinking about it all day. No name. No picture. Just that. I closed the laptop. Didn't touch anything else. Went to the kitchen. Poured myself a glass of water. As if I could swallow the knot in my throat. That night I dreamed of a door I couldn't open. Emily was on the other side, laughing softly. I yelled. I pounded. But the harder I pushed, the further the door moved away. I woke up in a sweat. She was still asleep. Peaceful. Untouched by any of it. The next morning, she was upbeat. She talked more. Suggested we go to the farmer's market. Offered to cook pasta that night. Said we should watch a movie. It all felt off. Too cheerful. Too rehearsed. Like a coat of paint over a cracked wall. I smiled. Played along. But inside, it was all fog. Later, while she was making dinner, her phone vibrated on the kitchen island. I didn't check it, but I looked. A glance. Just long enough to see the name flash on the screen. Not Nikki, work, this time. Just Nikki Dizzy. With a star emoji. A star. That damn star. In that moment, Emily appeared beside me, picked up the phone fast, smiled tight, and said, "Want some wine?" I said yes, because I didn't know what else to say. That night, we barely spoke. We watched a show we didn't follow. Lay in bed without touching, facing different directions. And in the silence, I thought, I'm not crazy. I know what I'm seeing. I considered talking to someone, my sister, a friend. But what would I even say? I think my girlfriend is cheating with someone saved as Nikki and a sparkly emoji. It sounded absurd, and I still had no proof. Just signs. But they were stacking up. I found myself Googling things I never thought I'd type. How to know if your partner is hiding something. Digital cheating signs. How to confront your partner without hard evidence. And then, one that made my stomach turn. What if the baby isn't yours? I deleted that one fast. Felt ashamed just for thinking it. But the thought was already there. Buried deep. Waiting. Saturday. She said she was heading to see her friend Lindsay. Said she'd be back soon. She came home after 10. Different dress. New lipstick. Said she spilled coffee and Lindsay loaned her clothes. She didn't look at me when she said it. I nodded. Didn't ask. That night I sat in the dark, lights off, refrigerator humming in the background. And I knew. Something was about to break. It wasn't about whether I wanted the truth anymore. It was about whether I was strong enough to hold it once it arrived. Sunday, she stayed in. Said her back hurt. I cooked enchiladas the way she liked. Extra cheese, sour cream. She ate quietly. So did I. Not because I lacked questions, but because I no longer believed I'd get real answers. While she napped later, I opened my laptop, scrolled through old photos, trips, holidays, moments on our couch. Stopped at one, taken 3 weeks ago. She was on the terrace, wearing a red dress I didn't remember ever seeing. The timestamp said Friday. The same Friday, she told me she was exhausted and going to bed early. The same Friday, Rachel had mentioned seeing her. My stomach turned. Not pain. Not exactly. Something deeper. Like my soul folding inward. I shut the laptop, went to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, looked in the mirror, and for the first time, I said it out loud. I think she's cheating on me. It sounded strange, foreign, but it was the only sentence that felt real. That afternoon, I pretended everything was fine. I made her tea, asked about her favorite show, listened as she talked about nausea and cravings and the baby kicking more than usual. I nodded, smiled when appropriate, but the whole time, I was thinking, is this real? Or is she just acting? That night, she fell asleep early again. I got up, careful not to wake her, and walked barefoot down the hallway to the study. She kept her external hard drive there, backups from work, photo storage, client files. I knew where she kept it. Second drawer of her desk. I plugged it into my laptop. My heart was pounding like it might knock over the table. Folders. So many folders. Dates. Campaign names. Events. Then one folder stood out. No name. Just an emoji. Crescent moon. I clicked it. Most of it was empty, except for one audio file, note.m4a. My hand trembled as I put in my earbuds and pressed play. It was her voice, whispering, not saying anything clearly incriminating, just fragments, like she was murmuring into the night. I can't stay long. He's starting to suspect. This can't keep going. I stopped the recording, pulled the earbuds out, closed everything. I didn't cry, didn't scream. I just sat there, feeling something inside me flicker and go dark. That night, I sat beside our bed, watching her sleep, and I wondered if she'd ever truly been mine, or if a part of her had always lived elsewhere. In the corner of her phone, inside a folder marked with a moon, under a name like Nikki, written at 3 in the morning. I thought about confronting her, but I couldn't. Not yet. I needed to know for sure. I needed to be certain I wasn't just losing my mind. The next day, I called Greg Walters. We hadn't talked much since college, but I knew he worked in family law. I didn't give him the whole story, just enough to ask, what happens if a man wants to do a paternity test? He paused. Has the baby been born? No. A few weeks left. Then you can't force anything yet, but you can prepare. Sometimes the gut knows before the facts do. His words hit hard. The gut knows. And mine hadn't been quiet in weeks. At some point, I realized I wasn't looking for answers anymore. I needed the truth, whatever it cost. Tuesday came. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the news on in the background, the sound of forks and knives like a metronome. Emily had been especially quiet that day. So had I. Like we both knew something was coming, neither of us ready to go first. So I did. I need to ask you something, I said. She didn't look up. Go ahead. Who is Nikki really? A long pause. Cold. Measured. I told you. A coworker. No. She's not. Alex. Don't lie to me. I can't do this anymore. I saw the name. I saw the emoji. It's not business. Not at 3 a.m. Not with messages like that. She slammed her fork down. You're going through my phone now? I don't have to. I can see. I'm not blind. You're overreacting. She's a friend. And even if I was hiding something, don't you think I'd be better at it? That stopped me cold. It wasn't just what she said. It was how. Smug. Dismissive. Like she wasn't afraid of being caught. Like she thought she'd already won. Are you seeing someone else, Emily? She finally looked at me. Really looked at me. Her eyes burned. Lips tight. You think I'd do that while I'm pregnant? I don't know. And that was the problem. She stood, grabbed her plate, and stormed into the kitchen. She ran the water, stared at the sink like it could swallow her. She was shaking. And for a second, I almost reached out. Until she spoke. You have no idea what you're saying. I've been alone too, Alex. I've lived with your absences. Your deadlines. Your silence. And that excuse is what? There is no what, she snapped. Just you, acting paranoid ever since you found out we were having a baby. She turned. Her eyes were glossy. And let me tell you something. If you ask for a paternity test, even if that child is yours, I won't stay with you. I stared at her. Are you saying I'm not allowed to ask? That I have to trust blindly or lose everything? She didn't respond. That night, we shared a bed, but not a connection. And I stared at the ceiling, wondering how I'd ever look at our child without hearing this conversation play on loop. The next morning, Emily acted as if nothing had happened. She brewed coffee, kissed my cheek, asked if I wanted my toast lightly buttered. And I said yes, because I didn't know how to say everything else building inside me. But something had changed. Not a spark or a blowout, just a quiet certainty settling in my chest. Later that day, I called Greg again. I told him I needed that clinic referral. Something discreet, fast, reliable. He didn't ask why, just gave me the details and said, "You'll be ready when the time comes." Weeks passed. The baby's due date crept closer. Our home became a waiting room. We moved around each other like actors playing roles we no longer believed in. I went through the motions, timing contractions, preparing overnight bags, learning swaddling techniques from YouTube. She smiled more, talked about baby names, showed me pictures of tiny shoes and car seats. And I responded. I nodded, offered opinions when needed, even rubbed her back at night when the weight of it all made her legs ache. But none of it felt real anymore. Then, without warning, it happened. It was just past 2 a.m. when she woke me, clutching her belly, eyes wide with panic and pain. "I think it's time," she whispered. I jumped out of bed, grabbed the hospital bag, her phone charger, the car keys. She breathed like they taught in the prenatal classes. Focused, controlled. She was scared. I could feel it in her grip. So was I, but for different reasons. The drive to the hospital was quick. A light drizzle blurred the windows. We didn't speak. At check-in, they wheeled her away and handed me forms to sign. I scribbled my name without reading. Hours passed in a blur of sterile white halls, nurses rushing in and out, and heart monitor beeps. Then, finally, I heard it. A sharp cry, raw and piercing. The sound cut through everything. A nurse stepped out, smiling wide. "Congratulations. It's a boy." They let me in soon after. Emily was pale but glowing, exhausted but smiling. She held a tiny, wrinkled bundle against her chest. "He's beautiful," she whispered. I stepped closer, looked down, and froze. He had thick, jet-black hair. Mine is light blonde. Emily's, too. Genetics are weird, I told myself. It happens. But it wasn't just the hair. It was a feeling, like I was staring at something wonderful, but not mine. Still, I did what was expected. I held him, rocked him, took photos, called family. I played the part because that's what you do. For the next few days, I stayed at the hospital with her, helped change diapers, fed bottles, held Emily when she cried in the middle of the night. But every time I looked at the baby, the same question echoed in my head. What if I already knew the answer? 3 nights later, while Emily and the baby slept soundly, I slipped out of the room and went down to the hospital cafe. I called Greg. "Can you confirm the appointment?" "It's done," he said. "They're expecting the sample. You just need to bring it in." "Does she need to sign anything?" "No. If you're listed as the legal father and you're giving consent, it's within your rights in this state." I thanked him and hung up. I didn't act right away. I waited 3 more days. 3 days of pretending, of smiling while holding the baby, of saying, "I love you," without feeling the words connect. On the 4th morning, I told Emily I was going out to buy more diapers. Instead, I gently swabbed the baby's mouth while he slept. I placed the sample into a sterile kit, drove to the clinic, and handed it over. The woman at the front desk nodded like this kind of thing happened all the time. "It'll take 72 hours, she said. I thanked her, stepped outside, and leaned against the wall, trying to catch my breath. Back home, Emily greeted me with a soft smile. "Thanks for being here, Alex. I know these days haven't been easy." I looked at her, and something inside me cracked. Because once upon a time, that smile was everything. And now, it was just a memory of who we used to be. The hours that followed dragged like wet cement. Every moment was split in two. Part of me helping with feedings, laundry, making tea for Emily, while the other part stared into an invisible clock, waiting for the results. I couldn't sleep properly, couldn't breathe deeply. I kept going through motions that no longer had weight. By the 3rd day, I was checking my email every 10 minutes. Refresh, refresh, refresh. And then, just before noon, it arrived. Subject line, paternity test results available. I stared at it for a full minute. My hands were sweating. My heart wasn't racing. It was just still, like it already knew what I was about to see. I locked myself in the bathroom, sat on the cold tile floor, and opened the email. Result, excluded as biological father. Probability of paternity, 0%. There it was. Not a suspicion, not a feeling, a fact. I didn't cry, didn't shout, didn't feel the devastation I thought I would. What I felt was emptiness, heavy and absolute. I closed the email, turned off my phone, and just sat there in silence. I don't remember how long I stayed like that. Eventually, I came out, walked into the living room. Emily was nursing the baby, humming quietly. She looked up and smiled. "Everything okay?" "Yeah," I said. "Just needed a minute." That night, I didn't sleep in bed. Not because she told me not to, but because I couldn't. Not next to her. Not after knowing what I knew. I lay on the couch, listening to the faint hum of the fridge, the occasional cough from the baby's room, the slow tick of the wall clock. And over all of it, one phrase kept circling like a hawk. He's not your son. 3 words. That was all it took to shatter years of love, of commitment, of faith. I didn't tell her that morning. I didn't say a thing. We had breakfast together. She talked about a pediatrician appointment, her favorite onesie that had gone missing in the laundry, how the baby finally slept longer than 4 hours straight. I nodded. I smiled where I had to. But inside, I was making a decision. Not a reaction. A decision. After she washed the dishes and went to lie down for a nap, I walked into the bedroom, opened the closet, pulled out my backpack, and started to pack. Just the basics: documents, laptop, a few changes of clothes. She walked in as I was zipping the bag. "Are you going somewhere?" she asked, puzzled. "Yes," I said. "Where?" "To a place where I don't have to pretend anymore." She blinked. Her hands dropped to her sides. "What are you talking about?" I turned around, looking her in the eye. I took a paternity test. It was like I'd slapped her across the face. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. "You did what?" "I needed to know," I said. "And now I do." "Alex, don't explain. I don't want to hear a single lie dressed up as a reason." She stepped back, stunned. "You can't do this to me. Not now. Not after everything." I laughed once, dry and bitter. "Me? Do this to you?" She'd never seen me like that. And I think, in that moment, she finally understood. "What's the worst part?" I asked. "That it's not my son, or that you never gave me the chance to know the truth?" She sank onto the edge of the bed, eyes red, lips trembling. "It was a mistake," she whispered. "A stupid, lonely night. I didn't even know until later. I didn't know what to do. And so you let me stay," I said. "Let me build a life around a lie. Let me plan a future with a child who isn't mine." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I didn't want to lose you. You already had," I said softly. And that was the end of it. I grabbed my things, walked past the nursery, past the echo of dreams I didn't know were borrowed. She followed me to the door. "Please, don't go. Don't leave me alone with this." I turned. "You were never alone. I was here the whole time. You just stopped choosing me." She dropped to her knees, sobbing, saying she was sorry, saying she didn't mean for any of it. And I believed her. But it didn't matter anymore. I walked out the door. Not in anger. Not in triumph. Just done. The sun was high, but I didn't feel its warmth. I didn't call a cab. Didn't text anyone. I just walked, one foot in front of the other, as if the motion might carry me somewhere beyond the weight in my chest. I didn't know where I was going, only that it had to be away from her, and from everything we'd built on a cracked foundation. Eventually, I reached the building I'd signed a lease for a week prior. A small studio on the east side of Portland. Clean, bare, white walls, large windows, quiet. That night, the silence was almost too much. No distant cries, no whispered excuses, just the hum of the refrigerator and the sound of my own breathing. I sat on the floor for hours, staring at nothing. Eventually, I lay down on the mattress the landlord had left in the corner. No sheets yet, no furniture, but for the first time in months, I slept. Not lightly, not anxiously, just rest. The next morning came without tears. I made a pot of coffee, burned some toast, sat on the windowsill, and watched a couple walk their dog down the street. I felt hollow, but in a strange way, also clean. She didn't message me that day, or the next. By the third day, I almost wondered if I'd dreamed the whole thing. But then, just before midnight, a text arrived. "Can we talk?" I stared at it for a long time before replying. "If you want to talk, it has to be with honesty. No guilt, no games." Her answer came fast. "I just want to explain. We met at a cafe a few neighborhoods away. One of those quiet, nondescript places where no one knows your name and no one asks questions." She was already there when I arrived. No makeup, dark circles under her eyes, a loose sweater, hair tied up. She looked different, not fragile, just stripped down. I sat across from her. We didn't speak for a while. She finally broke the silence. "I'm not here to beg," she said. "I know I hurt you. I know what I did was unforgivable." I nodded slightly, waiting. I just needed to say it out loud. That I was wrong. That I lied. And I did it because I was scared. And selfish. I said nothing. "I didn't plan it," she continued. "It wasn't some affair. It was a night. A mistake. I barely remember his name. I didn't even know I was pregnant until weeks later. And instead of telling me, I said, You let me plan a life. I thought if I told you, you'd leave. And I didn't think I could do this alone. I leaned back in my chair, my coffee cold now. And now, I don't know, she whispered. I'm terrified. Emily, what you did wasn't just a mistake. It was a theft. You took away my right to choose, to understand, to prepare. I know, she said, tears filling her eyes. And I'm sorry. We sat there, surrounded by the quiet clink of cups and low music playing through tinny speakers. I don't hate you, I said finally. She looked up. But I don't trust you. And I don't think I ever will again. She nodded slowly, accepting it. I'm not going to ask you to come back, she said. I wouldn't even know how. I stood. I hope you find peace, I said. And I hope the baby grows up loved, even if not by me. She looked down, a single tear dropping onto the table. Take care, Alex. I left without looking back, walked down the block into the open air. And for the first time, I felt the sunlight. Not harsh, not blinding, just warm enough. That evening, back in my new apartment, I unpacked the last of my boxes. There wasn't much, just a few clothes, some books, a couple framed photos I wasn't ready to throw away yet. I made myself a simple pasta dinner, played some old music through my speakers, and looked out at the quiet street below. No one called. No one needed anything from me. For once, that felt like relief. I started writing again, just notes, reflections, pieces of the storm I'd walked through. It wasn't for anyone else, just for me, to understand the shape of what I'd survived. Every now and then, I'd think about the baby. Not often, not with bitterness, just with a kind of distance, like remembering a dream that ended too soon. A week passed. Then one night, my phone buzzed. Another message from Emily. He's doing well. Eats a lot. Sleeps in short bursts. He frowns like you used to when you concentrated on blueprints. I stared at it. Not angry. Not sad. Just still. I didn't reply. Not because I was punishing her, but because I didn't need to be part of that story anymore. I stood in the elevator mirror the next morning and barely recognized myself. Not because I looked broken, but because I didn't. I looked calm, like a man who'd survived a collapse and chosen to build again. This time, without borrowed walls. I threw myself into work. Clients. Presentations. Floor plans. People stopped me in the office to say I looked more focused, more present. I didn't explain. I didn't know them that. Some nights, I'd walk to a nearby park and just sit, watching families pass by, dads chasing toddlers, moms calling after kids on scooters. Sometimes I wondered if I'd ever have that. A family. A second chance. A clean story. And quietly, I told myself, maybe, but not if it costs me who I am. One evening, while rearranging my shelves, I found a box I hadn't opened since I moved out. Inside were old letters, movie stubs, and a mug Emily gave me the day we signed our lease. It said, "Here's where everything begins." I smiled and put it back in the box. Because yes, something had started there. And something had ended, too. A few days later, a letter arrived. No return address. Just my name on the envelope. Inside was a note, handwritten in blue ink. Thank you for everything. I tried, but I didn't know how. I read it 3 times. Then I tore it into 4 pieces and dropped it in the trash. No anger, just closure. People sometimes ask if I regret it. Leaving, getting the test, not giving her another chance. The answer is no. Not because it didn't hurt, but because I finally understood something I should have known all along. Love that asks you to abandon yourself is not love. It's fear. It's control. It's someone else's emptiness dressed up as a promise. Now, I wake up early. I cook for myself. I read books without skipping pages. There's no crying baby. No woman hiding messages. No man doubting his own reflection. There's just me. And for the first time in a long time, that's enough. A month passed. The weather shifted, summer giving way to fall. Mornings grew colder, streets dusted with leaves, and the air carried that sharp, clean smell that always made me feel like something new was possible. One day, a meeting ran late, and my usual route home was blocked by construction. The detour took me down a familiar road, and without meaning to, I found myself in front of our old building. Same black gate, same tree on the corner, same number on the buzzer, but none of it belonged to me anymore. I didn't feel anger or nostalgia, just distance. Like it was a place from another life, a story I'd read once and quietly shelved. I kept walking, not toward anything in particular, just forward. That afternoon, I sat on a bench in a nearby park. Families passed in waves, fathers holding hands with toddlers, kids racing each other on scooters, couples sharing hot drinks. I watched it all and let myself wonder, not with longing, but with curiosity. Would I ever have that again? Would I ever trust someone enough to build something real? I didn't have an answer, but I finally had peace with not knowing. Later that night, back home, I lit a candle and opened a new journal. I wrote the date, then a single sentence. This is what healing looks like. And it was. No sweeping redemption. No dramatic comeback. Just a quiet return to myself. People still message me. They ask how I'm doing. If I miss her. If I miss the baby. Sometimes they ask if I ever think I should have forgiven her. Or if I regret walking away. I tell them this. You can love someone deeply and still know they're not meant to stay. You can forgive and still leave. You can mourn what was and still protect what's left of you. The truth is, she and I never got the ending I once imagined. But I got something better. I got clarity. I got quiet. I got my own name back, unattached from anyone else's story. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. When someone forces you to choose between their presence and your peace, choose your peace. Always. Because it's in that choice, not the pain, not the betrayal, not the silence afterward, that your real story begins. Not a broken one, not a sad one, just a true one. And that's enough.